What's up, guys? Let's talk about the brand new Season 29 and give you guys my thoughts and overview slash review of the current season. You guys are seeing basically everything that's new in the new season with this gameplay here. There's these new areas that if you explore the open world, you can go ahead and find these portals. Once you enter these portals, you can get a variety of different little zones that you can go ahead and kill enemies. It's a little small zone, but it has multiple floors. But all it really is at the end of the day is another way for us to get bounty materials. There is no new seasonal themes to give us a massive amount of a power, with the exception of actually limiting our power by limiting the amount of Paragon points that you're able to acquire. You can only acquire 800 Paragon points. However, you're able to distribute the points a little bit differently. So let me go ahead and kind of show you guys how this works. But this is like one of the newest things in this season. At the end of the day, there is a chest at the very end of these new portals that you can explore, and you can get a bunch of bounty materials. Well, this is T16, which is the highest that you can go. You can see how many bounty materials we have acquired there. So there's like 20 of each. That is basically the whole season mechanic in a nutshell. And again, you're not doing rifts or greater rifts while you're able to see these, so it only scales up to Torment 16. But that's basically how it works. You're actually seeing one of the newer builds also in the gameplay here. But first off, I want to kind of go over what we had last season and in some other previous seasons that I felt like the seasons were kind of cool. But with this season, we also have the ability to only have 800 Paragon points. However, it's kind of a little bit more interesting because you only have 800, but you can put basically 4 times the amount that you would normally be able to only put 50 points into every single one of these categories, but you can put in now 200 in every single category. So, I mean, there could be some interesting builds where you have a lot of life and you can scale with, let's say, like Death's Bargain on like life percent like per second, or if you really need cooldown reduction, instead of getting 10, you can now get 40. So it allows some numbers to be a little bit higher, and one thing that can actually add a lot of damage is area damage. But overall, your character is still going to be less powerful because you only have those 800 Paragon points before. Well, you could have infinite Paragon points, but usually after a couple thousand, that's where most people like kind of taper off. I mean, heck, most people kind of stop playing maybe at, let's say, a little bit over 1,000 is where most people kind of cut it, unless of course you see people that are streamers or content creators where they will grind for thousands and thousands of Paragon. So I think that is kind of a nicer way to kind of even the playing field, so to speak, against again, some of the botters. But even just looking at what was in here, I mean, like there's a lot of notes over here. So one thing that is kind of newer here is solo self-found. Now, is this actually new content? I know a lot of people have been wanting this. I've seen it asked time and time again. It's mostly streamers that ask for this. Personally, for me, how I feel about solo self-found is like, it allows players to be able to say, I did this by myself. I didn't play in a group. I didn't have access to, you know, trading items with players. So I can get the appeal, but in D3, I mean, getting items is really not that big of a deal. It's more about Paragon farming when you're playing in a group anyways. And if they're making it so there's a maximum Paragon points, well, then everyone's going to be, you know, 800 and it won't really matter too much. But whatever, it's there. Okay, so I think that that's going to be a nicer thing for, again, a small portion of the community, but it was something that I have seen requested time and time again. Another thing is that this portal, I already went over the portal. You guys already saw the gameplay. All you're getting at the end of the day is bounty materials from it. I think it'd be cool just to get, let's say, maybe one primal at the very end. If you're doing a T16 that way, there's an incentive to do it because basically you don't upgrade your gems during it. So it's kind of like if you play Diablo 4, it's like, well, it's not going to be the Nightmare Dungeons, therefore it's not something that people want to engage with. Now, in Diablo 3, you do need to eventually upgrade your items to reroll them, right, with the second page of the Canise Cube. So it does give you some bounty materials, and you don't have to do bounties if you're doing this, right? Although you still probably want to get, like, let's say the Royal Ring of Grandeur, so you're still going to have to do the bounties anyways. On top of that, it's usually part of the season progression anyways, but they show off this area where there's like multiple bosses, and sometimes you can find multiple bosses, but it's T16. You're just going to one-shot everything like you're seeing in the background of the gameplay. I'm not sure what rift level this is, but nonetheless, if it's only T16, you're just going to melt things anyways. There's these new affixes that monsters have, and I was thinking that these were going to be kind of nasty to run to because a lot of these things were things that they removed in Diablo 4 because players said it was not fun. So it's kind of backwards that they're like, okay, let's just add it into D3. So what they've added was basically they have an area where they reduce the player's movement speed, so you move way slower. Your healing is reduced by a massive amount, or it will remove your maximum resource. Look at this, hitting a player removes 65% of their resource. You know how big that is? But honestly, since it's T16 anyways, since you guys saw it in the very beginning, I'm just literally melting everything, so it does not matter, right? These whole like different monster affixes don't matter for the majority of player base, unless of course you're talking about like the early game, which, you know, sometimes people spend maybe an hour or two, you know, in the early game, because most people are playing the end game of Diablo relatively fast, because you can still hit up a buddy and have them power level you. But there's also, again, the Paragon ceiling, which I've already mentioned. But for the most part, there are a few other changes with the game, and you guys are seeing gameplay, and I played basically every single thing that emerged out of this. There's the new Chicken Witch Doctor, the Demon Hunter got a small change, but the more exciting thing I'd honestly say is the Crusader, which you guys are seeing in the gameplay here. Let me go ahead and actually just give you guys some of the chicken gameplay. The chicken gameplay is a little bit more exciting because you're running around as a chicken and you're just shooting out other chickens and it just blows up. It's kind of a nice auto build, but the Crusader one has to take the cake in terms of like which build emerged that was like brand new, that is like way better than the rest in terms of how it plays. And yeah, this is just me running around as the chicken, which is cool. And this is like kind of a new build. Like it technically already existed, but the numbers just kind of got stepped up by a long shot. But in terms of the season mechanic, like it's just not that exciting to go into a portal and then just get bounty materials. I wanted some new sort of power, because what's interesting is this season we actually have less power than we did in the previous season. And I was thinking about just in general, like in terms of Diablo, what we got previously, right? Like in season 28, this was a really cool thing that we got this giant skill tree that we can put in that gave us massive amount of power. It gave us the ability to have some sort of like runic circles, which is actually from another season mechanic. That this thing where, this one where you take some less damage doesn't really matter too much, but this one you gain a shrine effect when you pop a potion. Like these effects were pretty insane. Increases your chance to dodge. You can double the chance to find a legendary. There was, you can basically get illusory boots. This is a legendary power just for free right there. This is where your orbs automatically are picked up. They increase the damage of elites. Like a lot of these were just basically other legendary powers or just really good things. Crit hits grant resource. This was massive for a lot of builds because you wouldn't have to use your generator. And I think this whole skill tree was amazing. They should just have this going forward. And I believe that they are going to have this going forward. And this is a really cool, you know, seasonal theme. Like there is a skill tree progression. Although here's my feedback on this one. Even though we're pretty much done with the season, I'm not going to change it. I think a skill tree should not let you get everything. Like you can literally get every single thing on this entire skill tree. You can get it. And this one also at the very end, you can get, so when a primal drops, you get a second primal, those double primals. Like this was an exciting season. This was probably one of the more exciting ones that we've gotten in a long time. However, you can get every single skill. I think in terms of a game design, a skill tree, you need to be making decisions in order for like you to decide, what do I want to go for? Not just, well, you can take everything. To me, I don't really get that idea, but hey, it was a cool season nonetheless, and I still liked it, okay? But then we go to the previous season where we have like the ethereal weapons. Some of these weapons had some crazy abilities, right? Where we're able to, like this one basically has the ability of, what is it, Fortress Ballista, where we get to gain a shield, and then we were able to gain out another passive, and they would have some sort of like other crazy ability. You can see the 150% damage to all the Demon Hunter skills. Like you had some really cool stuff, and it was kind of like a shout out to even Diablo 2 with like Barizza, right? It had a lot of items, and I think Bartuk's from Diablo 2. This was an amazing season. And then like we had that season where you can get the soul shards that would give us insane stats. Look at this, like our cooldowns are increased by 25% for every skill on cooldown, and we take reduced damage and deal more damage. So it would incorporate your builds to actually have a lot of things on cooldown, so then you could do more interesting things. This was a good season. But when I'm looking at this season, I'm like, well, you guys just saw it. What was this? I just walked in and then I get 20 of each bounty material. That's the new season upgrade, the power. It doesn't make me feel excited. I want something new, even if they were to recycle, even if they were to bring back the ethereal weapons, bring back, I mean, even the soul shards. Heck, I think what would be really cool is if maybe you get to choose 2 of the powers. Let's say, for example, I know we had like the angelic weapons at one point, or ethereal over here, and then on top of that we also had soul shards, and then we also had those rings, right? There's a lot of these things in the previous seasons, and I think it would be really cool. And I always look at the design of creativity when I think about, like, you know, what a season should have, because at the end of the day, if we just go back to the patch notes, I mean, basically, if you are playing the Crusader, there's the Speed Horse build, the Captain America shield throw build is like, it's like whatever. It's not really being super popular, nor is it like really changing. Oh, they just change a number thing, okay? So again, Fist of the Heavens Crusader, that was cool. And then we had the chicken, which you guys are seeing here. And then with Demon Hunter, it's literally like the same exact build that we already have with the Gears of Dreadland. It's just that it has a nice little quality of life where you don't have to shoot your hungering arrow as often, and you basically get more damage. But there's a lot less creativity, I would say, in terms of the seasonal like design, where I have to think about how do I want to build my character to kind of fit this theme or whatever, because it's basically, well, whatever build was previously popular, you can pretty much play it and you're going to be good to go. And now we have a cap on Paragon, although I will give them credit, there is a little bit more interesting play when they do add the Paragon cap, because, well, I can put way more into cooldown reduction. Maybe some new build will emerge off of this, or we can put a bunch into attack speed. The other problem in Diablo 3 that a lot of people don't know about is that there is some sort of breakpoint. Once you reach a certain amount of cooldown reduction, they give you diminishing returns. Same thing with attack speed. That doesn't happen with crit hit damage, I believe, but I know with crit hit chance there is some sort of like weird cap. It depends on the class that you play. It's kind of weird, but nonetheless, there's a little bit more play and interesting things with that. But like, to have the seasonal mechanic, like, we have less power, we have no like seasonal power upgrade, although we can put in more points into like one area, we still overall are losing power. And the point of a new season is usually to have some sort of fantasy of power creep. If I go into a new season feeling less powerful than I did last season, that just makes me not want to play. And on top of that, there's no new like legendaries or unique items to acquire for the most part, again, with the exception of the Crusader. I mean, there are some changes with the Witch Doctor too, that just numerical changes make the chicken build a lot more viable, but they kind of left out the Necromancer, and Necromancer actually got some nerfs on the notes, so we didn't even really bother recording any gameplay, because like, why would I want to just show you guys nerfs overall? But it had to do with Carapace giving you like a bunch more essence, so it made the Scaly Mage Necro a little bit worse. But overall, it's not anything super exciting for Necromancer or Wizard or Barbarian. And again, the God DH I would also put in the same category. It's a quality of life, but it's not a new build. I think that it would be really cool to see just one legendary new power on every single class that can kind of open up the doors for a certain build. That would be really cool. I think one seasonal theme that would be really cool is if we could do like maybe select 2 classes and we could take class skills from other, classes and put them on our bar or passives, or just anything to incorporate more interesting things than things that we already currently have, because this is one season and a lot of people have been asking me, is this season worth playing, at least via the PTR? My feedback was, well, I'm showing you guys the Crusader and the chicken. If you guys enjoyed that, then I mean, that'd be one incentive. But if you don't enjoy those builds, and if you're playing, let's say, Wizard, well, you're just going to have less power than you did before without some sort of seasonal like new mechanic. Well, you could still maybe do kind of the same on Wizard in terms of like doing a 150. There are certain classes that probably will not really be able to do like a GR 150, which most classes on season 28 could realistically do because of the altar of rights, right? But that's kind of my thoughts on it. I'd love to know yours down below, but I want to say this might be one of the first seasons where I would say, I might not play it day one. It depends on what else is coming out at the same time. We have lots of other games coming out, Starfield. But in terms of like my review on the season, it feels very underwhelming. It feels undercooked. I don't feel like that there's a huge incentive for players to play that we're playing tons of season 28. And remember, guys, season 28, wait, when did it come out? Hold on, I think it came out in like February, right? Season 28 Diablo 3 release. It came out so long ago, and for like, yeah, it was February 24th. So for this long of a season, and we finally get the thing, and it's just like, well, you get bounty materials on a chest at the very end. I can't say that I'm super excited about it. So bring back ethereal weapons, bring back the soul shards, or bring them both back, and then I'd be a little bit more excited. And just keep the altar in the game. That'd also be another very nice thing. So hopefully with this feedback, they can, be able to understand kind of what players kind of may want, but I'm curious to see maybe what the retention rates are looking like for this season, if it stays with nothing really there. But that's my thoughts. You guys can let me know yours down below. But if you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like on it. If you're new, subscribe to the bell if you want to see more gaming content.